It's seen better days.
All right, are we ready to start this?
No, but we'll do it anyway.
All right. I forgot. How do we start this?
Usually with some banter up front, and then we mess things up a few times, and then we say the one joke of, are you ready to do this? No, but we should do it anyway. Then we go into it.
Got it.
So welcome, everybody,
Hi.
to this episode of the UnTITLED podcast. It is episode 10.
Oh, I was so close to doing it before you. So wanted to be like, 10.
It's 10.
No, not even fast enough.
Is the episode number of this. Today we've got a great show. Don't say it. Today we've got a show, and we're talking about some things.
Okay, I wasn't going to say it. You're like, don't say it. I was like, nothing came to my mind when you said don't say it. I was
That's
like,
right. You don't watch these. I forget.
No, I don't. I don't even edit them anymore.
Okay, so what are we doing today?
We're going to talk about some stuff.
Are we?
I love the fact that you tell me what not to do and I just turn around and do it immediately.
What are we doing?
Okay, we're going to start with some updates. Things have happened this week.
Have they?
Punch in the face. Big Book of Battle Mats. Cyberpunk Edition.
Yes, so this is low-key battle mats.
Yes.
I always want to say maps, but it's mats.
I know, I had to ask you before I typed it out because I was typing out MAPS, but it's MATTS.
No, it's MATS.
Is it really? It's not Battle Mat. It's not Battle Mat. Can we, if we had a son, could we call him Battle Mat?
So if
we are the dumbest people I know.
That is not true, but we are close.
Anyway, so we actually Thomas did the review of the original Battle Mat, M-A-T single T-S.
M-A-T single T-S. That's two names.
You know, if it wasn't for spell check, I couldn't get through life.
It's still not gonna. I think Battle Mat. It's like Battle Mat. It's short for Battle Matthew.
Absolutely, duh, with one T.
All right, so I did a review for low-key Giant Book of Battle Mats with an S. They sent it to us. We did a review. Pretty cool, actually, especially if you're not a channel. You know, if you are just going to make an encounter, you can throw down a map, and there are maps inside the mat book. It's all
kinds of crazy levels. No, the thing I liked about it was just the variety that they gave you. Mm-hmm. You know, so it wasn't like, oh, it's in the woods, it's a trail. It wasn't very repetitive because I feel like sometimes with the building that we do with all of your little Legos, I'm just going to call them Legos, your printable Legos, is that we kind of get stuck in this, here's a town, here's a road, here's a forest. That is it. Yeah. This one has beaches, castles, dungeons. What else is it?
I mean, it definitely has the road.
Yeah.
And then it definitely has like plains next to the road. Like you could flip it out into two sides. You can actually check out the video right up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think we liked this one. I kind of liked it. I just thought the design was really nice. It was a decent size. It still fit in a bag. It laid flat, which is nice. So if you put your minis on it, it wasn't like they were kind of going uphill constantly as they went to the center of the mat. I don't know. Anything else that you liked about it?
Just quick and easy. And it was better than drawing them out by hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely better than that. It was a big size. It was A4, so it was a big book.
But you could still get it in a backpack. Yeah. Also, did we leave it at somebody's house?
No, we left something else. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It is at our game.
Yeah, so it's actually in our home game at someone's house right now with Corona.
They don't have Corona. They're just not leaving the house or letting anyone else in their house.
So we can never get our battle
So
back.
What else do we have going on?
So for Call of Cthulhu fans, the 2-book bestiary called Malus Monstranum. Say it fast for me.
Malus Monstranum.
Okay, that sounds way better than my butchering of it. So I'm sure that's exciting for somebody. I don't read, so I... because you can tell because I can't spell.
But don't, right?
Kind of. I can read. No, I can't. Obviously, based on my spelling, MATTS, and also my inability to read monstranum. Monstranum?
That's good. Leviosa.
No, it's not. It's Leviosa.
Leviosa.
No, it's not.
All right. So the other big announcement, obviously, going on right now as we record this is Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden.
It's not going on right now. It's launched in September.
But D&D Live is going right now.
Yes.
They're streaming, as we are recording this, of people playing introductory modules and things of this new campaign.
Rime of the Frost Maiden. And it's not spelled
It's not a bar.
R-H-Y-M-E, which I thought it was until Thomas said, what's a rhyme? And I was like, well, duh. It rhymes.
Yeah. So we looked up what rhyme was, and it is a layer of frost that goes on things.
Yep. So basically, it is the chai tea of D&D. It is the frost of the Frost Maiden. So
Yes.
if you had to say it twice in case you were confused where we were, what we were doing.
Exactly.
It's going to get cold in there.
Anyway, so we are, in fact, talking to people right now about starting up a new all-virtual campaign playing through Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Yep. What is it? 0 to 12?
0 to 12, 0 to 16, something. Seems like it's a pretty long campaign. Probably one of those year-long campaigns when they release the next one next September. So we're putting that together right now. If you are watching this, reach out to us if you are interested. We are definitely looking for a very diverse and amazing set of people.
Yep, absolutely. You do not have to be in the Bay Area to play. We are looking for people who are all over the world.
As long as you can play in Pacific time.
I was like, including Canada.
Whoa!
Why not? I mean, it's not like we're mailing things to them.
What if they live in Quebec?
That's totally fine too.
No way.
Yeah, because you know what I wouldn't do? Mail them anything.
Have them enter. Is an audition process similar to a lottery?
No.
Okay.
Not unless you expect there to be Hunger Games at the end of it.
There might be. You don't know.
Well,
we don't know.
That's just what happens at home.
Anyway, so hit us up if you are interested in that. We're interviewing people. Of course, by the time this comes out, we may have already talked to a number of people already.
We have talked to a number of people.
All right. So anyway, so that's happening. That should be fun. We're looking to launch that pretty quick.
Oh, I thought you were looking at introducing the next segment.
Why don't I look at introducing the next segment?
Why don't you just do it instead of looking at it?
I'm looking at it right now. It's right there. It's This Week in Kickstarter. Pew, pew, pew. Pew.
You are just the slowest today. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
Not even.
Like how we both muted
I know.
our computers.
Pew, pew, pew.
All right. So the first thing we have up in This Week in Kickstarter are these interesting D&D 5e character cards made of wood.
Oops.
The hardwood cards to track your abilities and spells. So this is similar, sort of, to the coaster thing that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Sure.
Which was canceled.
Yes.
Also, turns out those weren't little magnet balls. They were just ball bearings.
Okay.
Which also probably not the greatest idea.
I threw away a ball bearing today.
What was a ball bearing to?
Meh. That's why I threw it away.
Were the other 999
I don't know either.
There's a bag out there missing a ball bearing.
Exactly.
There's a bard or a rogue somewhere.
And this is why ball bearings are a bad idea. Found one in the bathroom and just said, what is this doing here? Oh, here's the garbage. And the end of life. Yeah, you sit on that and figure out, you just go through the mental history of all the things you think you have ball bearings that are missing.
Why would any one of those things that use ball bearings be in the bathroom? I don't think like the hair trimmer. I don't think there's any ball bearings in like the hair dryer.
Or the toilet paper.
Toilet paper has no. Does it have ball bearings?
No,
it doesn't.
But that could be interesting.
That's a little over-designed, probably, for a toilet paper dispenser to have ball bearings.
Are we going to talk about the dice trays here that we're looking at? Or are we just going to talk about butt ball bearings?
First off, now they're getting into places where they shouldn't be.
Oh
my goodness. All right. So, D&D 5e character cards. These people are happy that we were talking about their product.
Are they really?
No.
Okay,
no,
I wouldn't be
not.
either.
Well, you know what good news is? They probably don't know that we're talking about them. So, there's that.
We should definitely link to their Twitter.
Yes. So, these look cool because they don't use ball bearings.
This is true.
They
use dice. So, and unless you're one of the rare few people who only have one set of dice. Or borrow.
Those people are called
Nick.
maniacs.
What?
That's right. Nick doesn't have dice.
Yeah, and for a while I lived in the diceless world as well.
That's just because you forgot them.
Well, that's part of it.
Right.
And I only had 1 or 2 pairs.
So Nick would actually forget his dice. No. Nick bought a set of dice specifically to have at the DM's house so that he would always have a set of dice.
Is that kind of like what we did with the battle mats?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't blame him then.
Now does that mean that we're like, hey Jason, we don't really like your map style of drawing. So here's this expensive book that you can just keep over there.
No, I don't think so. Just when he goes to the bathroom, we draw on his mats for him anyway. But I digress. How do you feel about what's going on here?
These look really cool. I kind of like these. I would certainly have these at the table. I
got a little confused, though, when I read this. Actually, when I saw it and tried to look at a picture and figure out what it is, because I don't read directions. Remember, we're going to visit that whole Amy doesn't read thing. This is a theme. So I like to look at things, try and figure out how they are before I actually read directions.
Okay.
So IKEA for me is just a lot of fun. So looking at this Battle Master thing, I would be like, okay, so what do I put some dice in here, like, the round peg in the square hole kind of thing. Yeah. Let's figure out what goes in here, and then what am I supposed to do with it? So that was a little bit challenging for me to just sort of say, okay, how am I supposed to use this exactly?
Right. So I think, this requires you to have played a Battle Master fighter, right? To know what...
No, to have read.
Well, okay, that's true. Or even to have read. I mean, I've read it. It doesn't mean I remember anything about playing a Battle Master.
Well, no, I'm saying that if you were a Battle Master, you would have probably read the entire class section in the handbook.
So kind of reading their sort of intro to what it is, it was that they were playing, this guy was playing with his daughter and her friends, and one of them kept forgetting that they had these super
duper?
Yeah, superjority.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. Compact superiority. Why does that look like a J? Anyway.
Reading.
It's combat superiority dice. And they get, so many of them at 3rd level for looking at this. One at 7th and another one at 15th level. So this is kind of made to say, if you have dice in these spots, you have them available.
Yep. Or the other method is, if you have a dice in this spot, it tells you how many of one thing that you have left.
So I think that, scrolling down to the sort of the cleric tracker here, where this person, this indicates that there are 5 first level spell slots.
Okay. Yep. And then at the bottom where it says Channel Divinity, that is the fact that at 2nd level, 6th level, and I can't read that far. What is it? 18th level, you get a Channel Divinity. So therefore, it's not about the number that's on the dice, but the fact that you do have a die there.
Yes.
In order to roll it to remind you that you actually could use it.
Yes. So,
because when I did that, I would just write these things down on a piece of paper on my character sheet and just make sure and look at it every once in a while.
Right.
And then I would make crib notes as far as what my Channel Divinity was based on my...
D&D Beyond actually has checkboxes for you to do all of these things. However, so my one bit of feedback, I am not a lawyer, especially not an IP lawyer, or any lawyer for that matter.
Are you a D&D rules lawyer?
I am a D&D rules lawyer.
No, you're not.
I'm a D&D rules public defender. I will do it for free. Okay. Anyway.
Public defenders get paid. What do you mean?
Well, they shouldn't. Okay, no, that's not true. They should.
What's your point?
Okay, my point is looking at the OGL license, these little icons here are not public domain uses. So
you cannot, well, here's the thing is that you can use them. So like while we stream on Twitch, we can use D&D IP because obviously we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. We're using their, their source modules and stuff, but we can never take anything that has any of their trademark items, put them on another product, and then turn around and sell that product.
Yes. And again, not lawyers, but definitely. So I was looking in the OGL specifically for these, and they list out symbols as things that are not available for you.
Good catch. I didn't even notice that.
So if you notice, those symbols are the official ones from the books. They are the officially licensed spell cards from Gale Force 9.
Yep.
So I don't know if you need to reach out to them or if you need to change them.
Or maybe they have already and we just don't know it. You're just assuming that somebody didn't when they actually do potentially have permission.
Or you're small enough where it doesn't matter, but hey,
highly possible.
It's a big company.
Especially look at how much are they. So they basically did a $500 goal. They're at $37.69, and they still have 26 days to go, which means that several people bought at least one.
It could definitely get very big, and they actually look pretty cool. I wouldn't mind picking up a few of these, or talking about them if you sent us a set.
How much money would you spend on this?
Well, let's look at the pledge amounts. So $10 just to say, keep
You're
going.
Cool.
What is this? So domestic wood is $15 for one.
Well, and that was my question, is that, for me, I will throw somebody $10 or whatever, like the minimum pledge is, something like that. If I'm looking and something catches my eye and I was like, cool. At $15 now, though, it's like I have to pick one. What do you get? Because you could be in multiple games. Like, are you going to play a fighter? Are you going to play a battle master? Are you going, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it doesn't make sense to buy just one.
We are a little different. I know some people who will only play the same class.
Really? Yeah. That's interesting.
So they're like, I am a rogue or I'm a ranger, and that's it. I just like to play those two classes. That's all I do.
Okay.
There are others that like to switch things up.
Yep.
And try new things, and that's definitely where we are, especially when we have things like the mitten and everything else, where we are choosing to play things specifically because we've not played them before. Anyway, so
if you wanted
want
to buy
the full
group,
shebang,
there you go. That was my question.
So if you want there's different types of wood. So there's domestic wood, and then there's exotic wood, which comes from overseas to the U.S. So Paduk or Purple Hearth, those more expensive woods are going to cost more. So if you want all of them domestic, $120.
Not bad.
Nope, $220 for the exotic woods.
And just think, if I didn't play D&D, I'd probably mistake them for a coaster and put a glass of wine on it.
They look like they're sealed.
That'd be great, because I also know many people who spill things.
So, this is the maple, or this is the cherry. This is the maple. This is my favorite, walnut.
Yeah, that's where you and I disagree on life.
So that's walnut right there. So the maple is lighter. The cherry is richer. I don't know if that's
more yellow-red.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, it is what it is. It's a great little product, I think. I see dangerous things in me and alcohol, but that's a whole other story. That can be applied just in general, not just to Kickstarter items, like walking. Anyway, so
this is cool.
Wrap it up. What do you think?
I think that we should talk to them and have them give us some for free.
Okay.
Actually, I think that we should back it.
Okay, that too. Fantastic.
These would be good gifts as well.
Yeah, actually, it would be amazing gifts, especially if you bought like the entire package and then gave them to people at your gaming table who were specific characters.
In fact, you could give somebody the cleric one and be like, you're the cleric. And make them. Somebody's got to be the cleric.
Is that what the whole point is? Look at. Because you can
take the bard one and throw it away and pretend there's no bards. You can't be a bard. There's no bard tracker.
There can only be one bard. You can't have an entire party of bards.
No bards.
All right. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Guess what you're getting?
Not bards. All right. Okay. So the next one that we were going to jump into is one that you found. And we watched a little bit of this video. This is called The Age of Atlantis.
Is there music with it? I love Siri. She's the worst and the best.
Yes. So this is a competitive engine building civilization game. So when you're looking at this, there are a number of cool mechanics. So it is a resource management game. There is a tech tree, like a civilization style tech tree that you are individually going through. Actually, it looks pretty interesting.
Okay. And to me, this, when I was looking at it, I looked at, okay, how many people have backed it? It's relatively new to Kickstarter. So when I found it, we're still like in that 30-day range.
Yeah.
And it's already got, I think it funded in a couple hours. And again, we're at $122,000. So this is going to be a popular game.
Yep.
To me, it's not exactly my bag, if you will, my cup of tea. Because of the fact that it kind of reminds me of games that I will play, but I'm not like, yeah, let me play this if I want to really enjoy it. So it's got some components of like you said, Civilization. It reminded me a little bit of Agricola. What else did it remind you of? I can't remember. I may have made some notes and now can't find them. I just have Civ and Agricola.
Yeah. So this is the part here that always makes me
competitive.
Yeah, I'm less interested in competitive games. I'm a co-op gamer.
Yeah, but again, too, like, you know, again, you used to love Agricola, you love Lords of Vegas. All of this stuff is not cooperative. All of this stuff is competitive. Anyway, but I digress.
They're from Wisconsin.
I know, that's also why I saw it and was like, hey, good on you for making a game. Also, Eldorado Games, this is their second game. So they are, you know, a company with at least one under their belt at this point in time. And they've been around. I think their first game was like 3 years ago or something, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Anyway, I digress.
Stop digressing.
Well, then tell me about it.
What does digress mean?
That means I'm just going to go back. Like.
Ah, okay. Whoa, look at this animation.
Okay.
We're leading our citizens, building the city, unleashing myths. That's kind of interesting.
What? Attack intruders?
It just says unleash myths. So I think, you know, there's a Minotaur, there's like a Pegasus,
yep.
There's one other thing.
And Poseidon is in here as well.
Yeah.
So essentially you are trying to take over or have the most political capital in Atlantis. And yeah, it's a spinning Poseidon. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, no. What is exciting is a 4-page rule book.
Oh, so I can't even talk about what you're supposed to do in the game. You're just gone to like the best part of the game is the fact that there's so little reading that I would even read it.
Do we need to get this just so that you could read 4 whole pages?
I don't know if I'd make it through. I'd just be like, you know what? I did half. That's plenty.
You know, 50% of the rules. It's
Can
fine.
you explain what the game is about for the love of everybody listening?
Let's see. Minotaur.
It's not about a Minotaur.
Pegasus.
It's not about
Cerberus.
Pegasus.
That's it. It's dogs. Mm-hmm. As well as centaurs.
Yep.
It's
And
4
you can
myths.
put exciting little meeple thingies on top of it. So as a ruling house, there are 4 ruling houses in Atlantis. What are you supposed to do? How do you play this game?
You are mining a resource called not unobtainium.
It's called something that starts with a C.
Coachellum? I don't know. It's
So it's millennium. It's millennials in like the Coachella Valley.
Exactly.
Cool.
Achaemen.
Nope.
Achaemen's razor.
Nope, not even that.
Um,
It is Greek, but
I can't. It's so far away. This monitor's so far away.
we should just
Hold on.
do.
No, I can't.
You know what? We should just scrap this podcast and just be like world's worst reviews.
I think.
World's most confusing reviews should be the name of our show.
Well, it
Starts with a C. I don't know where it is anymore.
It's not a C. It starts with an O. I don't know.
No, it's not. Olympitanium.
Hold on.
You're gonna edit this, right?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
We never do. I promise you it's in here somewhere. I should have written it down, but you know, the writing and the reading thing, it's really kind of a drag. Anyway.
Okay. So unobtainium. It's the stupid avatar thing.
Okay. I'll go with it. I'm buying it.
It's not it. It's
Nope. I'll find it. You keep talking about what they do.
okay. So you mine this resource that allows you to expand your technology tree very fast. You place workers and put the workers to work. Mm-hmm. You build buildings, and you defend the island from intruders.
Yep, but you also have to appease Poseidon, otherwise Poseidon will
Flood you.
Correct.
Yep.
Which again, all problems could be solved if you had Perseus in Medusa's head.
I'm sorry, I didn't read those books.
There's a Kraken in there. Okay. Anyway, continue.
So you have read.
No, I saw the movie twice.
Was that with Harry?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, anyway. So This looks like a fun game. I think.
Does it? Because we don't even know what happens here.
This looks like a fun game, and I bet someone we know is going to back it, so we can play their copy when they get it.
So I found it. It was in very light-colored font. It's discovered. Oh God, my reading is the worst reading ever. Discovered a new element called orichalcum. Yeah, it's right there.
Orichalcum. I think I was close. It is definitely almost Coachella. It is definitely almost Occam's razor. It's Ochella.
Anyway, so you've got a couple things you can do. What I find interesting about this one is that games like Lords of Waterdeep, a lot of games you kind of do your XP around the top of the board. So you do your victory points at the end. So everybody at the end of the game, when you reach a certain threshold, you count up all your points and then you go across the tracker, and whoever at the end is the winner is the winner. With this one, your victory points are called political points. And again, it's that same style where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way around the board. And you track it immediately, essentially for every single action that you do, you start to track it. And it feels like just watching some of the playthroughs that there's a lot of victory points to be had. So it's like, I got 5, you've got 6, I've got 7. It's not like, oh, I go 5 turns and I finally get one kind of thing.
Have you played Lords of Waterdeep?
Yeah. Well, that's my style. I wait and then just blow everybody out of the water.
Gotcha.
Like I hoard stuff and then I'm like, and here is my 75th move with 120 points.
But with Lords of Waterdeep, you have to use it. Otherwise, those treachery cards are going to come and take away your...
Not if you play with new people who don't know how to play.
Well, okay. That's
cheating.
Amy likes to play board games with children who have no idea what to play, and she's like,
and I still lose half the time.
She still flips the board over on them.
What?
And they're like, "Yay! Flip the board!"
It's the best game ever.
So that is going to wrap it up for this week in Kickstarter. We are going to go off and do our very next thing. Amy, you want to tell us what that is?
Ooh, yes. So we had a chance to talk to. Don't look at me like that. I can see you. We had a chance to talk to Marc Schubert from Ice Cream Dice. He has a new...
Schubert.
Shut up. I knew I was going to say that. I knew it.
Marc Schubert from Ice Cream Dice.
Not Schubert. Nope. Anyway, so somebody at our table, Tiana, has a set of Ice Cream Dice. That was his first Kickstarter. And so they are gorgeous looking dice that every time I see them, I want to eat something ice cream related.
Mm-hmm. Do they have an ice cream sandwich?
I don't think so, but there is like a root beer float and again,
the Neapolitan with the chocolate, strawberry, vanilla.
But I mostly care about the root beer float. Anyway, so that was their first Kickstarter. This is his second Kickstarter. And so we just have a general conversation about like the things that he learned between the Kickstarters, how he involved the community into the Kickstarters. And so his Kickstarter that is happening this month and has approximately 10-ish days left is Pride Volume 1. And they are absolutely gorgeous dice that are tri-colored, if not more than tri-colored. He's at $62,000. One thing I really like about this campaign when I backed it was the fact that if you back the campaign, you actually get the add-ons. So again, I will be getting pins and other exciting things besides just the set of dice of my choice. And again, too, what's really nice, again, is that his stuff actually goes into production after the fact. So even if you do miss the Kickstarter, at least with Ice Cream Dice, you can still purchase the dice. So should we take a look?
Yeah, let's talk to Marc. All right, we are going to welcome Marc Schubert from Ice Cream Dice to the podcast. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
That's good.
You did such a great intro, Thomas. Just for everybody's sake, we probably rehearsed this maybe twice, and there was a whole thing like Marc Schubert from Ice Cream Dice, who now currently has a Kickstarter called Pride Volume 1. There was going to be so much information in there.
I think I got most of that.
Yeah. Hi, Marc. How are you? Was that a great intro?
Works for me. Simple is often the best, contrary to popular belief.
Actually, I kind of want to jump right into it because you're like, simple is the best. But when I look at your dice design, I think, honestly, they're kind of complicated. So when I look at the Kickstarter Pride Volume 1 and look at, and again, I'm just scrolling for all the actual listeners, scrolling through some of these pictures, like the asexual dice have like 4 layers. I mean, to me, that seems complex.
It is and it isn't. I could get into like a whole bunch of technical stuff, and some of it is incredibly limiting. The best way to put it is that I get all my dice manufactured, mass produced. Like none of my designs are handmade except for the big D20, which is the 55 beast, right? And even that I'm not making myself. I have a team that makes it for me because I haven't had the time to practice making dice by hand. But the technical aspects of layers is basically when they go to pour the resin in the molds, the layer has to be at least 3 millimeters thick in order for it to partially cure before they put the next one on. So one of the things that became challenging was, people are like, oh, like, are you going to do a full, original 8-bar Pride set like the big gay D20? And I would love to, but one of the things that I did with this Kickstarter over the last one, because I piled so much on with the last one, that this one I really wanted to simplify, and that is a difficult thing for me to do. I am some people throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. I just throw it all at the wall, look and go, oh, that could be a design, that could be a design, that could be a design. I should design that. And it's fun from a creative perspective, but from a business perspective, it's not sustainable, right? And ultimately the goal is to make this business sustainable. It's getting there. It's close, but from a technical aspect, like the lesbian set was the one that I was really, really impressed with from the factory I work with, because you've got 5 layers. You've got the red and the orange, which are similar in tone, and like there's a distinction between it. And then you've got the pink and the purple, which also are similar tones, and there's a distinction. The one technical thing that I'm happiest about is that they made the purple stripe, which I requested them to do, but requests don't always get translated into actual, fact and workability, was that the purple layer in the bisexual set be thinner than the pink and the blue as it actually is in the flag. Because if you just say, I want a 3-layer set, and you give them the colors, they're just going to make them all equal unless you say something specifically, right? So like I sent them reference photos. I said, like it should be X, like it needs to be thinner, and they nailed it really well. I was super pleased with those samples.
So where's your distributor? Is it overseas or is it?
Overseas, yeah. Unfortunately, there's the only company that I know of that's American based that actually makes dice is ChessX. The problem is ChessX doesn't do custom dice that are actually custom. They will customize their existing designs for you. But I mean, then they're very good for like conventions or for a giveaway or whatever, or for promotion, right? Because almost everyone who's ever played a role-playing game owns a set of ChessX dice, right? Like they are the grandfathers in many ways for most of us modern gamers. Like my first 2 sets were ChessX. One of my all-time favorite sets is actually a ChessX set, and I looked, and I mean, maybe I just didn't look hard enough, but everyone I've talked to is like, no, you have to go overseas. So yeah, my dice are mass produced in China. My fulfillment team is run by a former British guy who's lived in China for the last 8 years now. And we sort of bonded over charities, actually, because he runs a school there that tutors rich Chinese kids for English. And then he takes that money and he uses that money to buy school supplies for schools that are impoverished across the world. Like he sends school supplies to Africa. He supplies a lot of school supplies to China. And I kind of came into this DICE thing through a charity and a school group that I worked with. So
Okay.
I was, still am ish, an educational assistant for kindergarten. And the school that I worked at in Edmonton here is one of the poorest schools in the entire city. And a lot of the kids come from very challenging circumstances. And after working with a young man with autism and seeing the benefits socially and like of conflict resolution and risk taking, and one of the most important things that I really sort of try and teach anyone that I work with, particularly if they're young, is to ask for help, right? Like that lesson that you cannot do everything on your own. Like there's very few characters that are ever going to be able to slay an entire dragon by themselves, right? Like there's a reason why we build our parties with, with that sensibility in mind, because we understand that some party members will have skills that we don't, right? So I started with this group. We finished off the year, and partway through, I realized that if I didn't get them supplies, they would never be able to play D&D again. So I was in the midst of a name change, and the board still had me as my former last name. So I decided to launch a GoFundMe with the goal of raising $1,000, and the $1,000 was going to buy some starter kits and what I call DM kits. So it was the 3 core books, battle mat, markers, minis, like basically everything you would ever need to actually play for the rest of your life, really, right? And the response was insane. It started super, super slow. Like the first 11 days, I raised, I think like $200 kind of thing, and there was the local Edmonton D&D group. There was a couple of guys there, and they reached out to me. They said, "Hey, we won't give you money, but we will put together the kits that you want to put together." So they came and met my kids and like brought 2 of the DM kits, which was amazing because in my mind I was 2/3 of the way there. And the other $100, if I had to beef it up to give these kids what I wanted to give them, I was fine with that. And then I had an interview with one of the local free papers here that is basically like, you go to any train station or bus station, like it's there, right?
Yeah.
And they did an interview with me, and it just blew up. By the time it was all said and done, I raised over $5,000.
Oh wow.
GoFundMe has a give back fund. So basically there's a team in GoFundMe that goes through the GoFundMes, chooses ones that they like, and then gives them $1,000. So that was a big boost. Beamdog, who is local to Edmonton, they gave me some books. They also gave me some cash. The guy who owns WizKids Minis sent me a giant box of minis and also donated to the fund. And like it just got to the point where with that much money, I had to do something bigger and more than just give my kids like the most pimped out, crazy gold label D&D stuff possible. So I started an unregistered nonprofit that I call Forging Heroes now. And basically, if any school club anywhere actually at this point in time, I haven't gone like overseas yet, but I've gone and sent a bunch of stuff to some school clubs in the States. And what I'll do often in that case is, rather than sending them a box of stuff because Canada Post is atrocious, I will literally say, send me your Amazon list and send me the address, and then I just buy as much of it as I can afford to buy at that point in time and send it to them. And it's been great. It definitely got slower between the onset of the business launching and COVID-19, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically where the the nonprofit part of things led into Ice Cream Dice becoming a reality was I wanted to make my kids custom dice. I was like, that'd be so cool, right? It's like memory for me, memory for them. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do it in time. But I was like, I wonder what would happen if I got this. So I started with Neapolitan, Orange Dream, and originally I was trying for what became Mint Crit after 3 or 4 different iterations, you know, and I talked to my wife. I said, hey, I want to release dice that look like ice cream, but I want to do a Kickstarter. How much money of hours can I spend on this?
Yeah.
Her answer was none. 0. You know, and part of it is because back in 2013, I had a failed Kickstarter that, you know, we absorbed as a family. And that was for a coffee advent calendar because I love coffee and I wanted to promote like small Canadian roasters and eventually try and do like a US version of it too, because you guys have some great roasters down there. And it failed miserably, but I took everything that I learned from that failure and applied it to the Ice Cream Dice one.
So what were some of those things, you know, because that's kind of like, so I didn't know your history before Ice Cream Dice. So I didn't know you did another Kickstarter or that you had a GoFundMe. So like, what were some of the key differences? Because even now I look at your first Kickstarter, the Ice Cream Dice Kickstarter, and like what was on it, and then this one. And to me, it's like, in some respects, it's night and day. Like the current one that you have going on with Pride Volume 1 is like, it's tight, there's community involvement, there's a lot of stuff going on here that compared to your old one was kind of like, oh, you get a sticker and then this happens. You know what I mean? It just like, this one feels so much more put together. So like my question is just kind of walk me through your Kickstarter evolution, if you will.
So the first Kickstarter was for a company that I called 24 Coffee because it was an advent calendar. You got 24 spots, right? And I launched it. I did my research, and research at that point in time said that July was the best month to launch because that is typically when most people have the most disposable income. It wasn't a particularly cheap thing, and it also wasn't garishly priced. But I initially launched it from my personal account, and then I transitioned into a business account. Like I launched a business Twitter, but I launched it like pretty much in the midst of launching the Kickstarter. So there was no real attention, and ultimately what it was that account spamming a lot of people. You know, trying not to, but like I wasn't able to have a community accept me, much less have a community that I could help build up and around. So it failed twice. And I realized that like one of the big things was there was no lead up, there was no marketing, you know, and so with Ice Cream Dice, I decided, for better or for worse, that I was going to release samples, give away samples, and, you know, just show people what was coming, even if it was, you know, I had a goal in my head that I wasn't going to launch unless I had at least 1,500 backer or 1,500 followers on Twitter. Like that was my goal.
And did you send, when you said samples, did you send actual like dice samples to people who you thought would review it, or at least had good Twitter followings that would promote you?
No, I don't do that at all. I think it works for some people, and for some people it jives with their brand and who they are. But honestly, my entire attitude towards things is I would rather have 10 people who are enthusiastic genuinely about my product talking about it to their friends than give it to someone who's, you know, maybe 1,000 people see it, but it's a hard sell, right? It's like, this was brought to you by Ice Cream Dice, you know, like it just, there's a it's disingenuous to me. And for all the problems that there are within our community, and I mean, there's a lot, and it's also very amazing, is like, we're generally pretty savvy and we don't like being sold to, right? It's like, it kind of puts our feelers up. So I don't spend much on marketing at all.
Okay.
It's not like, it's not a cocky, arrogant thing. It's, I like taking pictures of my dice, and like that ultimately became my marketing, particularly for the first one, because I had a friend of mine on Twitter who was like, "Hey, I found this really amazing vase that you should use." So like, that's the one with the hand and the waffle cone, right, on the first one, and it didn't ship to Canada, and I had no money really to spend on this, and it wasn't like incredibly expensive, but it was out of my price range, especially with exchange rates. So I made a trade. I said, "Tell you what, you buy the vase for me, you ship it to me, and if the Kickstarter succeeds, you get a dozen of my designs, a dozen sets at any point in time. You call it, you get it. Plain and simple. If it doesn't fund, you accept me paying you back." Right?
Fair.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I bought like a photo box, I bought a couple of photo lights. So I mean, I wanted to promote them in their best light. And also, honestly, like, I don't color boost my photos, I don't edit them. There's a lot on the first one where you can see like cat hair that is like that long, and it drives me nuts. Like, I look at them, I'm like, oh, damn it.
I just noticed that it was also your hand in a lot of pictures. I was like, oh, that's got to be his hand. It can't be like, you know what I mean? It's not staged. You just did this.
I go into my backyard and I use my phone and I take my pictures. And sometimes I use, after the first one, I was able to buy myself a nicer camera. So, you know, I do have a macro lens on that, but like, ultimately it's still not edited. It's just a higher quality picture because it's higher resolution. So yeah, like, the first one taught me to lead up and market, but in a way that was true to who I am.
Okay.
And then Ice Cream Dice, I didn't know how to say no. I wanted to have all the cool things, right? Like, I really wanted to please pretty much anyone and everyone. It was a great goal, and it was foolish, right? Like, I really stretched myself insanely thin to the point that like, I'm still have things that I have to ship out for it. Not many, you know, but there's things that I shipped out months ago that just got returned recently, where it's just like, wrong address, and it sucks. But ultimately, like, one of the things that I got feedback for on my first one, particularly around stretch goals, was a lot of backers really prefer a first-time Kickstarter to be focused on the product that they're raising funds for. And I mean, when you go back and back and back into the history of Kickstarter, like, stretch goals weren't a thing for years and years and years. And
I remember that.
Now they're almost expected. Right? So as a creator, it becomes a very, very tough challenge. You know, how do I go with no stretch goals and hope that people think it's a quality enough product on its own to just fund it? Or do I go with stretch goals? And if so, like, how do I go about getting them? You know, like, who do I work with? And I was incredibly fortunate in many ways that I had some really great people within the community work with me. Friendly Dungeon Mom, Brittany Hay, who designed the dice bags and came on board for this one to design the stickers, which was awesome. Because people, like, a lot of the things that I do are really kind of built around and very heavily influenced by community. I'm not a pin person. I have this weird thing, and I think it's because I grew up so damn poor that like, I can't willingly put holes in my clothes. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like when I have to wear like one of those like name badges, I'm just like, I hope it doesn't make too big a hole.
I hate to tell you this, but like, I'm somebody like that too. So we actually, in my bag, I have a lanyard that I carry with me. So in case you go someplace that somebody's like, here, put this name badge on. I was like, oh, let me grab my lanyard. Let me clip into your pin and then put it around my neck.
I should do that. I should really actually do that. but then I have to battle the thing that I hate anything touching the back of my neck. So, but like it's one of those things where I talk to people, they're like, oh dude, you should do a pin. Like people love them, and it's and it promotes, and obviously like it promotes my brand, right? Like that's the other great thing about it. So like bags were a given. Obviously I wasn't going to send people out their Dyson plastic bags. Pins came in, stickers came in, and then partway through the campaign is when Dogmite came in with the boxes.
Yep.
And then I brought on, because a lot of my stretch goal people were either done overseas or US based, and like I really wanted to try and bring at least some of that money home to Canada, right? So I reached out to Galaxy Gaming Gear, and they designed my dice tower for me, right?
Okay.
Which was great. But it was just way too much. It was way too much stuff. And the other thing that I didn't know going into it, because I had absolutely no previous retail experience. Do either of you have retail experience?
Not professionally, no.
Well, I do.
Really, do you?
Yes. I worked at a skate shop when I was in college.
Oh, okay. That will count then.
Yeah.
So then you're familiar with SKUs.
Yes.
Yeah. So to put things in perspective, so SKU right? UPC code.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
Okay. My first Kickstarter had almost 40 different UPC codes.
Okay. So
this is based off of 8 designs in 2 finishes plus everything else, right? Like it just.
I did see that. I was like, because like when I looked at the first Kickstarter, because again, I think my friend Tiana backed ice cream dice, and when she brought it, I was like, now I'm hungry. God damn it. I was like, come on,
stop. Ice cream sandwiches somewhere.
I know. I was like, there's got to be a Rip Your Float here somewhere. Come on. But she would be like, ooh, look at this. And when I went to look at the Kickstarter and the website, I was like, the Kickstarter, there was so much like, it's glossy or it's matte. And then it's this or it's that. And I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, I can't give people that many choices. I can't even think about that many choices.
Right. And like, that was a huge part of it, was like, I just essentially blurted everything on, as a possibility, as an option.
That makes sense now. Yeah.
And not understanding retail, not understanding how complicated I was actually making things, doing it the way I was. When that one was done, and I started thinking about the second one, and people started asking me if I was going to do Pride designs, I was like, yes. Like,
so is that where the idea, is that where that came from? Was just people asking you, or was, like, did you have another idea in your head? Like, I really want to do this, but people are asking.
I do. I've got probably 2 or 3 lines that are like sitting in my brain, ready to ready to go through sample mode and stuff like that. And Pride was never the intention, because there's other people out there that are doing Pride, and and I at the time I was identifying as hetero and cis, right? So like it really felt like I wasn't the right person to do it. And a lot of people asked me, they're like, dude, please do Pride designs, please do Pride designs. And eventually I reached out to some of my friends through Twitter who are members of the respective communities that I'm representing in Volume 1. And I was like, hey, it seems that people want me to do this. What do you think? Like, is this me running the gay capitalism charade? Or is this me actually giving people a way to represent themselves at a table in a meaningful way? And I talked to people who knew me well enough to tell me that I'm full of shit, right? Like that was key to me, was I didn't want people that are just going to blow smoke, right? It's like, I don't need to be told that, yes, I can do this. What I need to be told is, am I damaging or lifting up the community by doing this, So yeah, like it really was a community ask
Mm-hmm.
And I hesitated and I hesitated, and it's like more and more people from various communities were asking. And then I reached out to my friends within the community and was just like, hey, you know, should I do this? And they're like, yeah, you've shown yourself to be an ally.
Mm-hmm.
You're not interested, like, you know, you're not some of the other companies that hedge back and forth or are only, you know, promoting Pride stuff when it's Pride month and it sells their, you know, their mass market rainbow dice. I said, okay, good. Like, that meant more to me than anything else, because I value myself and I see myself as an ally, and there's so much to learn within that being told that I'm seen as an ally when I'm not asking that question is, you know, I'm not saying that it proves that I'm an ally, because proof is in the action, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it shows that people perceive me as such, and that was a big deal. So I got my first samples done in September. Well, actually, I probably got them done in August, but like I received them in September.
Okay.
And then I went to Spiel, and at Spiel, my dice never cleared customs. So thankfully, I had all my set. It's
How
a
is that
common
possible?
thing. It's a common thing.
Really?
Yes. So 2018, the game, I don't know what game it is, but the game that won Game of the Year at Spiel, 90% of their stock never made it to the show. So they get this prestigious award, and they literally had, like, they were sold out of their game before they got the award.
I just wonder why Germany doesn't accept dice through through customs.
Well, I think part of it was because it was my first time trying to ship internationally for a convention, and I pack the boxes like I pack boxes, which is if it fits and I can write it on the label what it is, good enough, right? So I had a mix of like apparel and dice, and I had my cash box and my square machine and all this other stuff, and it
wasn't necessarily the dice. It could have been anything that tipped them off, or
it could have been anything, or the fact that it just wasn't perfectly coated, right? I mean, so I had my bag of ice cream dice samples. I had my bag of Pride samples, the very, very first ones. So my sister did the show with me because we kind of bookended it with a family vacation, because the three of us had never been to Germany together. So we went and saw relatives, saw friends, you know, and that was great. And then my sister and I had 5 days where we got to hang out for the first time since we were kids, just the two of us. And my sister looks around the hotel room. She grabs a pot, a dog dish, and a Kleenex box, and a couple of pillowcases, and that becomes our display.
So I get the dog dish. Sorry, but I'm like, I get the dog dish.
Yeah, no. Okay.
But tell me, where does the pot and the pillowcases come in?
So the dog dish was, let's say, 2 inches off the ground. Pot was 3 inches, and then you got the Kleenex box in between. So you've got your levels, right? Because that carries the eye through, right? So that was the display part of it. And then we had no fabric. So my sister grabbed a couple of pillowcases from the hotel room and laid them out on top as our fabric.
Got it. Okay. Because I was like,
what? We basically used a jewelry case because I didn't want to display my dice the way everyone else does, right? Like, you go and you just, like, it goes back to the first Kickstarter being so overwhelming. Yeah. Right? Like, I didn't want to overwhelm people visually. I wanted them to be able to take a breath in between seeing things, right? Like, we need that space visually. Otherwise, it just becomes too much. And so the first day, I go to pull into the parking spot that I paid for. Dude waves me off. At this point in time, I'm stressed. My stuff isn't here. I've paid a lot of money to be here, and this dude waves me off. So I go with the intention, of course, of doing a U-turn, and there's about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers worth of cars. So this Thursday, I look at my sister. I'm like, nope, we're going to the hotel. I'm like, I will be much more effective trying to get my stock to sell if I have access to internet and I'm not busy talking.
Yeah.
So we go back to the hotel. This wonderful, wonderful person in a dice group happened to know someone who worked for German UPS.
Oh, cool.
And got me in touch with them. And they're like, hey, they don't work in the customs part of it. They don't work in the delivery part, but like they might be able to move you a little bit further ahead or get you in contact with the right person. Yep. So it sounded like it was going to get to the hotel possibly Friday or Saturday. Then it sounded like, you know, maybe even Sunday. And then eventually it was very clear that it just was not going to happen. But having that little bit of hope was what we needed. So we went in on Friday and like we were smiles and happy. And we wrote a sign in poorly translated German that basically said, customs has all my stuff. Sorry, I can't sell anything. And it's like the amount of people who walked by and just like did this one, like, you know, when you get just that head shake of like,
I feel your pain.
It's disappointed parent, like I'll talk about the parental one where it's just like, oh, you know, this one's like the, oh, buddy, I feel for you, right?
Exactly. I feel your pain.
We made it through Spiel, and then Sunday, I still had some of the like little 36 mil pipped Kiwi D6s. So my sister and I, we put them out in a bowl. We put a poorly translated German sign out that said, take what you want. We're enjoying Spiel. We'll be back in a couple of hours, roughly, you know? Yeah. And we just actually enjoyed the show. And we walked around, and we just, like, we came back, all the dice were gone. And it was a very good experience. And there was a couple of things that were just, like, super funny about it. There was a company that did not make my ice cream dice that had both my Neapolitan and my Rainbow Sherbet sets. And I'm like, how do you have these? I mean, there was another company that also tried to steal my sample cast. Well, they didn't steal. They bought my sample cast-offs from the factory that did the samples, and then they were going to sell them as loose dice. And thankfully, someone alerted me to it, so I got in touch with them, and they destroyed them. And then used, what was really cool with it was that they destroyed my dice, and then they put those pieces of resin into transparent resin dice that they then sold. So like they recycled my dice and made a whole new batch of dice out of it. It's like, I'm impressed with your cleverness. Like this is a really good way to turn something that would have been 100% loss into something usable. I can't be mad at that. Like, I can be mad if you're selling my dice, but I can't be mad if you're selling bits and pieces of my dice and bits and pieces of other people's dice in dice.
That is interesting. That is very interesting.
So so we've kind of, you know, I'm not huge into the dice world, right? So I don't know a lot, but I have heard those tales of people buying those, you know, molds off of the companies in China and then just packaging them up and selling them as their own.
In the like 2 years that I've been doing this, I've watched the dice business get incredibly cutthroat. It's I think what a lot of people see is, you know, you reach out to any factory in China and you find out what the wholesale cost of dice is, right? And people go, oh man, like that's a high profit margin. It's solid. It really is. But they think it's like, and then they go to Kickstarter or they start a site and, you know, they think that copying other people's designs is going to sell. What they often, I mean, some of them get away with it 100%. But what they don't often realize is that there is a bunch of us, both from the mass production point of view and from the handmade point of view, that fiercely protect one another. Like, I have people where I will tell them if I see their dice on another site, and we're not friends in terms of like, we've never had coffee, we've probably never even met face to face.
Yeah.
But if you are making or designing dice and you are putting work in, that work should not be outright stolen, you know. And like there's been there's been an upsurge recently on Facebook where a couple of different companies have stolen handmade and other dice designers and dice companies images and put them on their site as like, we sell these dice. And some of these designs are so incredibly unique that nobody else does them. There's
I follow Yanir on Instagram, and so
I love her dice.
yeah, it's so intricate and so unique. And you know what I mean? I feel like she would be somebody that if you contacted her and said, like, I feel, you know what I mean? I think that this would be important to me. She would be able to make something that is representative of you, or representative of what you wanted, and that they're so custom and so specific. And every time I see something on Instagram, I was like, that's genius. That's beautiful. That's interesting.
She's the only handmade dice maker that I actually tried to get a pre-order in, and the set that I wanted was sold out. Like there was one where I'm just like, I want that set, and I have a lot of friends that make stunning dice. Like Greenleaf Geek is a very good friend of mine, and she gifted me a handmade set because I do a lot of, like, I help a lot of people behind the scenes because I'm open. Like if you want to know how to make dice, if you do the basics, I will help you with the rest. I will give you tips, and I will not tell you how to do it, but I will tell you what to watch out for and what to look for in good companies, bad companies, and so on and so forth. And Dice Y made me a wonderful custom set because roughly month and a bit ago, I was at home and I was just like, I have a lot of stock. Contrary to what a lot of people might think, like I don't actually sell a lot of dice. I sell enough to keep the business going, but I'm not sitting on stacks of cash, right? I've got boxes of hundreds of dice, literally. Some are sets that I wholesale and then retail, and then some are my own designs. But I was like, I really want some cool stuff, but I don't have money to spend on it. So I offered up a trade, and I basically said, because the other thing is I'm a former graphic designer, and I find that a lot of artists and graphic designers undercharge and undervalue their work.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give people an opportunity to name their price. So what I said was, I'm going to put 100 sets aside, and you name your price from 1 to 5, or if what you do is worth more than 5 sets of dice, talk to me and we'll discuss it. Like, this isn't a hard and fast number, but this is a range, and tell me what you're willing to trade. And people are like, can I trade this? I said, yeah. Like, I literally I said no to not a single person. So I have multiple dice bags coming. I have I have a nice handmade D20 from, oh crap, what's her? I hate when I know their personal name and I can remember it, but I can't remember their business name.
Or like me, where I just slaughter everybody's name because I'm like,
So yeah, like I've got, like I've received hand crocheted dice bags, crocheted plushies. I got a dice bag today from Norway that I'm very excited about. I've gotten a handmade set of dice. Where is it? I know it's around here. So this was a bonus that Dice Y made for me. And like,
what is that in the middle?
Ice cream.
Oh, it's a little ice cream cone. Okay,
yeah,
I see it.
Right, and like I love it. I can't wait to actually have some floating shelves in my office that I can actually put things up that I want to keep safe. But like reaching out to the community and saying, hey, whatever you do you, and whatever you want from me, we can discuss, because it bothers me seeing people undervalue themselves. When I was in design school, our dean taught us the triangle, and the triangle is one of the most valuable. It is the most valuable lesson.
We're in film production. I understand the triangle. When somebody's like, I need this and I need it tomorrow, but I only have this much money. And I was like, the time, the money, and what's the other one? What's the other resource? Yeah, and quality. Yeah. So I was like, yes, I can get you this, but I need 5 times more money to hire 5 times more people to meet your deadline.
Right. And like so many people don't know about the triangle, and like it's so incredibly valuable, right? Because it instantly becomes, okay, so you want this quick and you want it really, really high quality.
Yeah.
I control the money. You know, you want it cheap, I control the time.
Yep.
Right? It's like, and having that control of that one facet of the triangle makes talking contracts and business so much easier, because it lays things out very simply for the client. You know, doesn't mean they'll always be happy with what you're laying out, but from a creative standpoint and a business standpoint, it's a lot easier to say, okay, I can get you something quality, I can get it for you in a timely manner, and here's a reasonable price.
What were your biggest key takeaways from the first Ice Cream Dice Kickstarter? Like, these are the things that worked really well. These are the things that we need to fix.
I was going to say, because we didn't touch about really well either.
So what worked really well was being brutally honest and transparent. Like, I documented and shared every misstep I made, and I made a few doozies, and then I made some that were just like smaller ones. You know, I always kind of laugh at myself for having started a business account, but it makes sense because people will often, you know, it's more self-explanatory than like Marc Schubert, right?
Yeah.
So, because there's very little separation between me and the business in terms of how we're represented. I drop less F-bombs on as Ice Cream Dice, and I still drop them, you know. But like the things that worked well were so organic, and they're not things that could ever be, like, they're not repeatable. Like having a community come around, you know, and accept me and help build me up and share what I did, you know, and offer criticism and constructive feedback, right? Like those are helpful. Those are great things that ultimately made for better designs. And the second last day of the campaign, the first fulfillment company that I had to sever ties with. One of the guys called me. He's like, I've done some stupid things. I've been busted. If you need to throw me under the bus, go ahead. But I really suggest that for your brand, like you sever ties. He's like, you're just starting and you've got a great community around you, and you don't need us bringing you down. So I was freaking out, because obviously with a Kickstarter, the first thing that I always tell people to look into really is take care of your fulfillment before you even launch. Like lock down your partner. You know, do your research. Like even if you don't have your partner locked down, do your research so you know the cost and the price, what their expected delivery times are, how do they process things, like what do they use on their spreadsheet, because ultimately fulfillment is the only thing a backer cares about besides the quality of the product. Right? It's like if you support my Kickstarter and I get you your stuff and it looks pretty decent, you're happy. Whereas if it comes and, you know, the package has been ripped, or, you know, things are missing, which I haven't had packages ripped, but I have had packages not arrive, and I have had things go missing, right? But once again, it comes back to that complexity of the first one, because ultimately there was thousands of options for people to take, because I wasn't able to make people add the extra 4 dice to turn it up to 11, right? As the same design. So essentially it was 16 different designs, because of the 2 finishes that could then be, you know, multiplied and multiplied and multiplied, where, you know, I'm going to get butterscotch, but I want the extra 4 to be Neo, or, you know, so like the simplicity and like what I did well was all organic and all community based. After I sort of announced that I, you know, didn't have a fulfillment partner and I was freaking out a little bit, Dean Dice, so not D&D Dice, who I don't like, but Dean Dice from the UK reached out to me, and Die Hard Dice also reached out to me. They're like, hey, you know what? Like, if we can help you with fulfillment, let me know, because we would love to. And ultimately, the connection that Dean Dice got for me is now my fulfillment team, who also make amazing dice. If have either of you seen Fathom Dice yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, are either of you space nuts?
A little bit.
In any way, shape, or form? A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Check it out after this, because the dice are handmade and they represent the entire solar system, and they are insane. Also, the same team is helping Tabletop Loot launch their first custom line. So like
that is one thing.
Really becomes,
yeah,
like,
that is one thing.
And
that I do find with this community is that when you talk to people on a personal level, they are absolutely willing to help you. I mean, there are other people like Chris from Nord Games who we had in the chair, and he's like, I will tell you all of these things. All you have to do is just ask me. It's insane that, like, you know, at some point people are like, yeah, let me share with you all of my trials and tribulations over the last 10 years so you don't do it. I'm like, wow. Like no other company, like a large company would never do that. You would never go to Starbucks and be like, hey, I need help making, coffee distribution.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there's been nice little like tidbits and support given before I launched. Dragon Turtle Games, who launched a, okay.
We play Carbon 2185.
I want to play. I have not played it. I own it and I have not played. But Robert, who runs that company, before I launched, he's like, hey, you know, like I've run a couple of these, and like here are a couple of the tips and tricks that I would recommend to sort of build up that momentum so that when you actually hit that launch button, people care, right? Yeah. So like one of his things was, you know, from 10 days out, do a countdown, you know. And like for me, one of the big things that I did that I found helpful is I gave away, in some cases, I actually gave away every sample set. I still, like there's a couple of designs that never made it to production, where I ended up giving away my last sample sets, but when I gave them away on Twitter, I don't ask for a follow. I don't want people to follow me just for a giveaway. Like if you want to follow me for whatever content I happen to be focused on at that point in time. You know, sometimes it's dice, sometimes it's lifting voices, you know, and sometimes it's just random stuff because I've been a stay-at-home dad for, oh my God, we're still in 2020. No, okay. No, going back to 2019. So
this is the best part of quarantine is like I saw somebody wear a t-shirt that said Wednesday and I had to really think hard. Was it Wednesday? Because I don't know.
That's actually really kind of hilarious and awesome. You know,
but
so like
real.
Totally. Right. Like I've spent a big bulk of the time in the first Kickstarter as a stay-at-home dad. I've been a stay-at-home dad since quarantine happened here, which was like early March, right?
Yep.
And you know, my wife has thankfully been able to work, and her childcare center, well, all the childcare centers in Alberta can open, which means starting on the 23rd, my little dude gets to go to childcare for 3 days a week, which means I actually get to focus with real energy and a wakefulness on the business. And like one of the things that I've done with this one is I've really tried to I try and only do one or at most two promotional tweets per day on Twitter, because I think right now with everything that's going on, it's more important that other voices are heard. You know, I've hit my goal. It's you know, it's almost been tripled. And obviously, yes, I want to be as successful as possible, 100%. And as a human, I don't need to be shouting above other people.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so I try and do one sort of like morning-ish, and then I'll try and do one later in the evening, because that way, like my four biggest supporting countries are the US, Canada, UK, and Australia.
Yeah,
Right?
got
UK
it.
and Australia, they're 12 hours away from me. So, you know, posting stuff in the morning, they're like, I'm too tired to check this out, right? And like really going back to the question, which is like, what did I do well? Was I organic?
I told you it was going to just go wherever. This interview is just going to be whatever.
I told you I was going to ramble. So it works well that your format fits my style. Is ultimately like I organically built a community, support that community, and love that community. Like I'm so fortunate to be in my mid 40s and finally running my own business. And if you would have talked to me even 6 years, 7 years ago, I would have looked at you and I would have been like, I don't even play D&D, you know, or RPGs at all, much less, you know, am I going to run a dice design company or a dice company?
So
Yeah.
sorry, can I go
I was
first?
just going to say, no.
Okay, fine.
Yes, you certainly can go first. I'm sorry.
Well, no, because that's actually interesting, because like I assumed when you were talking about working with children and bringing bringing D&D to them, that you had been a long time player, just because I think most people start younger and then they're like, I'm going to teach my children, I'm going to teach other children, I'm going to spread to the community, I'm going to grow and develop our community. When did you actually start playing RPGs? Like, how did you get into it?
So I started playing when I was about 11 or 12. One of my friends in the very small town that I grew up in, his big brother liked RPGs. So we initially started with D&D. I think it was advanced D&D probably at about that time. And we grew tired of the tropes really, really quickly. So we moved on to riffs. And we were like, this is okay. And then eventually we settled on GURPS. So back to RPGs. So I didn't play for years, had no one interested. No one ever talked to me about it. I'm sure like if I kind of went back and reached out to a bunch of old friends, they'd be like, yeah, dude, we were playing for like ever. Why didn't you ask us to play? Because you never told me. Oh yeah, because we were still playing in mom's basement, right? And I got reintroduced to D&D 5e when I was working with a young man with autism. He was fairly high functioning and super geeky, and we were trying the specific role that I was given was like get him out in public, help him learn his social skills, right? Like help him develop those a little bit stronger and help him pick up on social cues. So we tried going to a bunch of different groups that were aligned with his fandoms, like animes and stuff like that. And none of them he felt comfortable at. None of them he wanted to be at. And we were at his local game store, which is one of the bigger ones in Western Canada. And I looked at the calendar to see what might interest him. And all of a sudden I see D&D like 101 for beginners. I'm like, oh, this might be really good for him, because he, like many people with autism, takes things very literally, right? So for me, the initial concept and the initial idea was like getting him to role play and fake play might help him express some of the things that he wasn't capable of expressing as himself, right? So we started playing, and I realized like his social skills picked up for quite a while, and then eventually that particular night got incredibly popular, and they were running 3 tables of about 10 people, and the volume was just too much for him. So a group of us who'd been playing for a few months together broke off and did our own private game for a little bit. And then a couple of things happened. And ultimately for me, what happened was Damien was born. So a little bit before he was born, I said to my friend, I was like, hey dude, like I gotta stop working with you. I can't take you to D&D, but there's buses, and he simply refused to take buses, right? Like
Yeah.
old enough to make those choices, old enough to make those decisions, and that was his choice. But I came out of it with like this deep burning love, because I love storytelling. It's I was a drama geek, and I was the drama geek who, when the teacher said, hey, you need to pick one of these monologues, I always asked, can I write my own? Only once was I denied. Only once was I denied. They're like, no, we need you to read, like, I don't know, Shakespeare or whatever, right? Yeah. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do your Shakespeare, but can I do a little bit of my own? No, Mark, you can't. Fine, I'll follow your rules. But ultimately it became this thing. So I started after a private group broke down, I started hosting a game at my own house, and I had one of the kids that I played with at the game store. Him and his dad came and played. So the kid was 10, dad's 50 something.
Yeah.
And like it was awesome to have them play together. And then I had another dad and his teenage daughter come and play, because one of the rules at my table was that it was never complete unless I had at least one person who identified as female. And one of the big reasons for that is because the context of tropes and perspectives for females is so distinctly different than it is for men. And I like that. I enjoy people who are like, no, that's not how I see it. Oh, how do you see it? Well, and then you give them that opportunity to be like, well, I think a warrior can be this or this or that, or whatever the case is, right? Like a wizard can, and eventually between having a baby and life, that group kind of just disappeared. Basically, we fought Tiamat because I was sick and tired of running this second book. I was like, guys, I hate this campaign. It's the first campaign I ran. I thought I would run the easiest one, and I hate this. So I'm going to give you a choice. We can either call it a day, or we can skip literally everything and just battle Tiamat and see who lives and see who doesn't.
Yeah.
And I will make it the best battle that I can. So they're like, yeah, we totally want to fight Tiamat. And what was super funny was that the day that the dad and his daughter joined, I pulled out the deck of many. So the group was at around level 5 or level 6 at this point in time. His daughter pulls the card that allows you to level up 2.
Oh wow!
My regular players that have been playing with me regularly up to that point all pulled crap, like terrible cards. And she pulls this, and they're like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, it is what it is. Now you guys got to level some monk. That's helpful, right?
She was a monk.
Oh yeah, she was a badass monk.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of monks, and I'm a fan of rogues, and I'm actually a fan of them multi-classing, even though there's so many redundancies between the two. But the idea of being able to sneak attack from the ceiling because you can walk on anything is right? Surprise! Coming down with daggers.
Our fighter has boots of spider climb, or we changed them to slippers, or they're the slippers of spider climb.
Crocs, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he always tries to walk horizontal and vertically on any surface that he can, just because he can.
Yeah.
And it is a tactical advantage. Like I am terrible at running combat. It is the single thing that, like, as a DM, I'm simply not good at. It's like there's other things that I'm weak in, but I could build those up. But like combat, I don't particularly enjoy it from either side.
No, I get that. That's
Especially at high level, it becomes just a battle of attrition of just over and over and over. So
I think the highest level I've played, I think I did a one shot where I was level 15 or level 17, and it's just like obliterated. You know, like you said, where it's just attrition. You're just like, okay, well, why are we doing these combats if it doesn't really move the story forward other than you get the glimpse of the big bad? Well, you know what? You could have just had him disappearing into the shadows as we crested the hill anyways. There was no need to have a swarm of whatever come and attack us.
And in fact, that's actually more fun because I know which module, the two books that you're talking about, and at the end it's Tiamat. But in the beginning, our group was like, oh my God, there's a dragon at a castle. We can't do this. Yeah. But it was just sort of flying off in the distance. We're like, we should run away. Like, it was just like, we thought we were seriously like, we got to run away. This is insane. We can't do this.
Yeah, and then trying to telegraph, it's okay. You can go in. You need to go in. The story requires you to go in.
Yeah, right. And like, that's that fun part though at the very opening, right? Where you're like, we just started, there's a dragon? We're all going to die.
So then we got to sneak around and do all this other stuff. But yeah, anyway.
I think the first couple of chapters of that book were really good. The fourth chapter, on the road, like that's when our group fell apart. Like it just went, like as a DM especially.
It was that was the one that killed me. I was just like,
there are 30 NPCs here. I have to memorize and roll randomly for you to interact with. I'm like,
yeah. Like I shortened that trip drastically. Spoon fed them a couple of the like NPCs. I was just like, I'm sorry guys, I'm not running you through however many days of travel it was supposed to be. I'm like, we'll be here for sessions and sessions and sessions, and it'll just be boring as hell. Oh look, we're on the road. Oh look, we meet an enemy. Oh, we defeat enemy. We find out clue about NPC. We already have a pretty good clue about NPC. Just let me interrogate them. Okay, cool. Right? It's like my favorite moment from that campaign was the father and son team. I don't remember what dad was playing, but son was playing a gnome fighter, I think. And playing with like 10 and 11-year-old kids, you really kind of learn how to let go of any preconceived notions and like really do the rule of cool, right?
Yeah.
So they wanted to tag team, and you know the part where like you're about to go down into the phylactery and like there's the guard standing, right? So the kid's like, I want my dad to throw me up in the air. I want to stand on my spiked shield, and I want to ride it down onto the top of this guard and try and crush him. I'm like, that sounds epic and amazing. Here are the checks that I need you to do. I need, like dad did a strength and athletics check to make sure that like obviously it's a gnome, so most standard characters can lift it, but can you actually aim it right? And then it was, an acrobatics check. Like, can you actually grab your shield and get it under your feet? And then, a strength check as you're going down, like how much damage you did. And I based Final Destination. You guys ever see those movies? Do you see the one where like the dude gets accordioned in the glass? That was how I described the guard. It was just and I really actually enjoy playing role-playing games with kids. And I think one of the things that D&D does poorly for kids is being too rule heavy, right? It's like there's other games where it's just simply not as crunchy, but it also comes from a very crunchy beginning.
Yeah. Do you think that's the kid that you were, the person that you were dealing with autism? Was that sort of a facet of it that kept him or her engaged? Just because, again, just kind of looking at some of these children, they just have this amazing knack to be like, this is exactly what you said 10 days ago, verbatim, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, I believe you.
You know what? I will say that like that didn't really show up with him that much, but it really showed up with my school group, right? Where like we had, the best thing was that with my school group, I had a co-DM because we had about 8 kids.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with kids that are like 9 to 11, they're going to go off the rails. And what we did was we wouldn't deliberately break them off, but like if one particular group wanted to do something, one of us would step aside and like DM that group. And he was strong in every spot that I was weak. And I got a super helpful character sheet from, they go by Scriv the Bard on Twitter, and they do a lot of work modifying things for D&D. So for kids, and they have a modified character sheet that gets rid of the like all the different abilities, and like you can still give those bonuses, right? But like there's no need to have 20 different things. But the kids would always remember what happened, and like we had about an hour and a half of time in which we could play, and typically we would probably play for about 45 minutes to 50 minutes at that time because they're kids and like they need that time to think about what they're going to do. Or we also gave them I found a really good article where it like ranked the classes according to difficulty to play and learn. So I gave them up to medium and took out all the hard ones. There wasn't a whole lot of spell casting. I think we had clerics and druids were the only 2 options really. And but there was just so many great moments. I got to do it for 2 years, and then I got transferred out of that school, which sucked. But the first group won the first group. One of the kids was in the behavior class, and so he goes in, and my co-DM and I, we'd spent about 20-30 hours planning what we were going to do. Like we had all these different concepts that we were running, where eventually we were going to take 2 groups separately, DM them, and then have them meet, fight the big bad victory, right? And because my co-DM and I have both taken improv classes, and he's taken more than me, he's like, here's how D&D works, kids. You're walking through a field. You have a treasure map. There's an oak tree, and it's the only tree there. What do you do? It's like, oh, research. Okay, roll. You find that one of the knots is a little bit out more. Well, I'm going to push it. Door opens, and you see a staircase going down. And that's how D&D works. I'm like, no, we're throwing out everything that we did, and that is how we're starting our campaign. So we had them go against goblins, right? Low level beginning. And this kid from the behavior class goes and just almost kills a goblin in his first shot. Second round comes around. Can I save the goblin? Because he has this moment of empathy, because obviously we're not describing it in gory detail. These kids don't need that type of stuff, but we describe it. We're like, you've almost killed this goblin. It is limping. It is bleeding. It is very clearly like not going to live much longer. And he ended up getting an entire like side adventure out of it, because the first time he tried to get the goblin out to safety, he failed his roll. So the second time I was like, are you going to let him walk by with a goblin? Asking the other players. And like a couple of them were like, no. I'm like, okay, you need to roll a persuasion check, and you need to come up with like a really good answer as to like why you would take this goblin. I was like, he says to me, he's like, can I roll deception? Because I want to lie to them that I'm going to interrogate it. Yes. So he's like, don't worry, I'm just going to interrogate this goblin, and I'm just going to take him to the back room. And he rolls, and he hits a nat 20.
Wow.
And the other players are like, so we can't stop him? No, he is your characters 100% believe this. You know as players that this is a lie, but your characters do not. And like he saved this goblin, and then it just became like a really kind of like labyrinthian thing because we wanted to take them through some of the different settings, right? Like eventually the underground cave opened up into a trapdoor of a tavern, and their ultimate final battle, because we spent a day asking them, like, what do you want to fight? What environments do you want to be in? They're like, volcano, unicorns. So I literally bought one of those exploding volcano kits. I found a bunch of unicorn eraser toppers, and painted their eyes red.
Nice.
And put them all over, and like it just they like their final battle was an epic battle, and ultimately the group was 50-50 between females and males, but for the last session only the females showed up, so it was awesome. I got to send 3 new DMs with like a crazy amount of stuff out into the world, and the other ones were just like starter kit, like
But I do think that that's kind of what speaks to what gaming originally is that even though whatever's happening in the environment, it's more about the group that you're with.
Yes.
Like, I very rarely, as a woman, feel uncomfortable with role-playing with anybody about anything. Sometimes I'm upset that I don't get to role-play things that would be interesting because my character wouldn't do that. But like, if I had a different character, I would absolutely do that thing, or I would do this or do that.
I feel you so hard on that.
Yeah,
one.
but I think it's important to like, the fact that you had all girls at the end and they walked away with kits in order to DM, that they're going to take that style that you guys did there and sort of propagate that into the world.
Really wanted the kids to understand that anyone can play, right? And it's like, it is one of those things that you said where like, if you take the overarching gaming as a concept, like bringing people to a table, sitting them down, having some good laughs, telling some great stories, like there's so many friendships and so many relationships that are built that are like meaningful and have more impact outside of the table than they do on like in game, that most hobbies don't really nurture. That's right. Like that's one of the things I love, is that like I love sitting down, telling a story, and then seeing where it goes.
Nope.
Speaking of sitting down and seeing where a story goes,
you kind of like this interview.
we're actually, we're an hour and some into this, so
Ooh.
I think we are going to wrap it up. But I think we should just tell us a little bit about your current Kickstarter, because that's kind of why we're here.
This is your selfish plug. So this is where you say, "Yep, selfish plug."
Ice Cream Dice is presenting Pride Volume 1 currently right now on Kickstarter. Go to bit.ly/Pride Volume 1, all one word. That will take you straight to the Kickstarter. We have asexual, bisexual, lesbian, non-binary, and pansexual dice right now. We have 2 sweet dice boxes, handmade and custom made just for this Kickstarter, well, mainly for Ice Cream Dice by Talon and Claw. We're working with Friendly Dungeon Mom on sticker designs. We've got Zio, who is a wonderful designer who designed the pin design. I've got a giant beast, 55 mil handmade original 8-bar Pride flag, big gay D20. This thing is numbered properly. It is not a spin down. You can roll this thing and it will roll true, and it comes in its own sweet box, because if you have a big gay dice, you need a box to keep it in, because you know what? That thing needs to stay safe. We're almost 300%. I'm super stoked. I'm really trying not to overshadow other voices and just spam people. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your mom's mom, because you know what? This is how this campaign has been built, is by people literally taking the time to show their friends and say, hey, I've seen Pride Dice. and I haven't seen these before, or Mark's a pretty decent dude. He's a good egg, So
here's one thing that I will say.
What?
Dice are small. You don't have to have only one set. You can back this designer and that designer and mass marketed stuff. You can buy some at Walmart.
That's what bags are for.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our interview with Marc Schubert of Ice Cream Dice. I had to look because I want Schubert
I
right
know,
now.
me too. And Ice Cream Dice.
I'm absolutely going downstairs and having some lemon basil gelato.
Nice.
Me too.
Thank you for joining us. The Kickstarter is live now, so make sure that you go and support Ice Cream Dice Pride Volume 1.
And thank you absolutely for having me. This was a crazy, rambling, meandering conversation, but you warned me, I warned you. And hopefully you all took something out of this, because there's a lot of content.
Should we wrap it up here?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you promise you're going to cut out the part where I call him Sherbert?
No. Why would I do that?
Because oh God, I knew I was going to do it, and I just went and did it anyway. And I said, don't do it. And then I just went, bleh, straight out the mouth. It's like I've been drinking all day.
And with that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Untitled Podcast. Thank you for joining us and for sticking around through that very possibly lengthy but very entertaining interview with Marc Schubert.
Absolutely. And if anybody has any apps that will help me both read and speak English better, please send them to me.
Do you need to get like foreign language apps for English?
I think so.
Okay.
English to English translation, 100%.
Reminds me of Airplane. So we are just going to pass that along, and we're going to wrap up this episode of the Untitled Podcast. We'll see you next time.